Welcome back to NTV News First Edition. On January 21st of this year, hundreds of thousands of women marched on Washington in what became a worldwide protest against inequality. Well, one of the women who took part on that day is well-known theater producer Jenn Deon, right from this province. Well, now 5 months later, Deon has a new theater company inspired by that historic day, and she joins me live in our studio. So Jenn, maybe you can tell me first off about this theater company.
Persistence Theater Company, we like to think of it as opposed to just a theater company that happens to be feminist. We're a feminist organization that is going to use theater as our medium to talk about feminism.
Now, there are people home who are saying, why do you need a feminist theater company? What makes it feminist?
What makes it feminist is that there is still inequality all around us, and that art can be the most powerful voice for changing hearts and minds. I mean, you can beat people over the head, you can get on Twitter all you want, but sometimes you have to tell a story to allow perspectives to shift.
Now, a lot of people don't like that word, though, feminist.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is one of the reasons we exist. It's one of the reasons we step forward. I mean, we're white, middle-class women. A lot of people think, oh, why do we need, I get paid as much as a guy. I have a good life here in St. John's. But sexism is pervasive, and it is everywhere. And as proven as recently as this morning with the McKinsey report that came out that said we're still seeing less than 15% of our CEOs in Canada are women, even though women are actually more highly educated by the numbers than men. So there is still work to be done. And there are those of us who feel it's our job to do our little part in the way that we can.
So how are you going to do that?
Well, our theater company is going to be taking stories that at least 50% of the voices you'll hear on the stage are going to be female characters. And that seems basic, but when you look at something as famous as the Bechdel test, which looks at movies and how women are represented there, we see what inequity there is. And even in Canada, we're seeing about 38% of the professional jobs being given out in theater are to women. And even worse, 25% of the plays produced are actually written by women, even though, of course, they represent over 50% of the playwriting union.
Now, as I mentioned at the top of this interview, you were there in Washington on January 21st. You were among those, I think it's about 500,000 women and some men as well, we should say, that took part in the Women's March that inspired persistence. Mm-hmm. What was it about that event? What did you come away with from that day that made you think, you know what, I want to be more involved in this movement?
Because that day was a call to action. It was hope after the devastating election results in America, but it really turned into an opportunity for us to bring to light so much of still which needs to be fixed in this world. And those of us who were part of it all around the world, including here in St. John's, the day of action was just the beginning. It wasn't the end. It was the call to come forth and that the world needs us all to make it a fairer and more equitable place for women.
We were talking about this before we came on camera, that people of our age group seem to be maybe more involved, or more, I guess, involved in feminism than even much younger women and much older women. Why do you think that is?
Well, we grew up in the 70s. That was a lovely time when feminism really was front and center, and we saw that reflected in all aspects of our culture, our music, our theater, our television. We'd go to the toy store and there wasn't gender-specific aisles for toys. We didn't have pink Lego. We all wore overalls. So, we came through a great time. I think young girls and women now are facing a much more challenging media environment in terms of defining what it means to be a girl and what it means to be a woman. I'm hoping now that we're starting to shift back to there's a real sense of our young girls and women are really starting to take their power back to realize that how much of what they're being told by the media is actually from either our marketing and, to be honest, a patriarchal environment.
Well, Jenn Deon, best of luck with your theater company, and I look to find out more about it in the future.
Thank you. We'll hope to see you at a show.